Brothers Byung-woo and Byung-ki work as smugglers in Seoul, tasked with retrieving illegal immigrants hidden inside a shipping container. However, when they break through the container, they find it eerily empty of life. Every occupant has perished from an unknown illness. Acting on instinct, they record a video of the bodies to show their boss in Bundang. Suddenly, from beneath the pile of corpses, a lone survivor, Monsi, emerges. While Byung-ki interrogates Monsi, his brother steps inside the container to retrieve his phone. Their orders are to deliver the survivor to their boss, but just as they prepare to leave, a police car stops next to their vehicle. As Byung-ki enters the car, his brother starts complaining of sickness and unease. Sensing an opportunity, Monsi takes advantage of the distraction and escapes. Shortly after, the brothers visit a clinic to get medicine, but Byung-woo's condition rapidly deteriorates. A deep, hacking cough racks his body, releasing a nearly invisible mist of saliva and mucus into the air. Unbeknownst to them, the deadly contagion has begun to spread, setting off a chain reaction that will soon engulf the entire city in an unprecedented disaster. In the next scene, Ji-gu, a member of the emergency response team, is on a mission to rescue a citizen trapped inside a car that has fallen into a mine shaft. During the operation, he encounters Dr. Kim and is immediately drawn to her charm. While he successfully pulls her to safety, the car itself is lost. The following day, at the contagion center in Bundang, Dr. Kim, an epidemic specialist, faces reprimand for losing crucial research data when her car plunged into the shaft. Meanwhile, Ji-gu and his teammate, Kyung-ub, retrieve her bag from the wreckage. As they sift through its contents, Ji-gu answers an incoming call on her phone. The caller introduces herself as Dr. Kim's daughter. Later, Ji-gu meets Miru, Dr. Kim's daughter, who presents photos to confirm her identity. After verifying their relationship, he hands over the bag. Impressed by the young girl's quick thinking, Ji-gu is taken aback when she requests his business card, just in case anything is missing. Though surprised to learn that Dr. Kim is married, he finds himself developing a soft spot for Miru, admiring her sharp instincts and confidence. Byung-woo's condition rapidly deteriorates as he begins vomiting blood. His panicked brother, Byung-ki, rushes him to the emergency room, where doctors isolate him, suspecting an unidentified flu strain. Dr. Kim is called in to assist and arrives at the hospital to find Byung-woo's condition worsening, with no clear diagnosis. While examining Byung-woo's case, Kim discovers a video on his phone and theorizes that the conditions inside the shipping container may have allowed the virus to mutate, possibly into a strain of avian flu. She urgently confronts Byung-ki, insisting that his brother is infected with a deadly unknown pathogen, and that the medical team needs the container's location to trace the source. However, Byung-ki refuses to cooperate, demanding to see his brother instead. When Byung-ki finally enters his brother's room, he is devastated to find Byung-woo dead. Overcome with grief, he rushes to embrace him, unknowingly exposing several hospital staff members to the virus as he struggles to reach his lifeless brother. By the following day, more patients begin exhibiting severe symptoms, signaling that the virus is rapidly infiltrating the city. With each passing moment, the infected continue to spread the deadly pathogen through the air. In an effort to contain the outbreak, the disease control and prevention team tracks down and incinerates the contaminated shipping container. However, rats that had been feeding on the corpses manage to escape into the city, posing an even greater threat of further transmission. Later, the medical experts identify the virus as a highly aggressive, mutated strain of H5N1, capable of killing its host within 36 hours. With no time to waste, authorities make the urgent decision to place the entire city under quarantine. In the next scene, Monsi saves Miru from being hit by a car, who has been hiding inside the parking area. Aware that he is contagious, he immediately distances himself, warning her not to come closer. However, Miru, realizing he is ill, follows him and offers him a loaf of bread. Touched by her kindness, Monsi finally introduces himself, reminiscing about his sister back home. Hoping to get him help, Miru calls Ji-gu. However, by the time Ji-gu arrives, Monsi has already fled. With no sign of him, Ji-gu and Miru head to a shopping mall, where Ji-gu learns that Kim's husband abandoned her and is now leaving in America. Meanwhile, the virus is spreading rapidly. After 36 hours of infection, patients begin exhibiting severe symptoms, vomiting blood and collapsing unconscious. As rumors of the outbreak circulate, panic starts to set in across the city. While inside the mall, Ji-gu notices a woman suddenly losing consciousness on an escalator. Driven by his duty as an ERT, he leaves Miru, who is still asleep, and rushes to save the woman just in time. However, in the chaos, he loses sight of Miru. She is nowhere to be found. At a high-level emergency conference, medical experts urgently recommend a citywide lockdown, emphasizing that the mutated H5N1 virus is highly contagious, airborne, and catastrophic in nature. However, politicians, driven by concerns over the upcoming election and lacking an understanding of viral outbreaks, dismiss the idea, downplaying the threat. During the heated debate, Kim steps forward, revealing that she has located a survivor from the shipping container. Upon reviewing the footage, officials confirm the man's identity and, given the level of exposure, the medical team strongly pushes for immediate quarantine. While politicians and administrators continue to resist the idea, the situation in the city takes a disastrous turn. Infected individuals begin collapsing in the streets, including drivers who lose control, triggering a chain of violent crashes. Hospitals become overwhelmed, communication systems break down, and chaos erupts as the realization sets in. There is no cure or vaccine for this rapidly spreading flu. With no other option, the government is forced to impose a lockdown. Top officials and research teams evacuate to Seoul, where they brief the president on the escalating crisis. In response, the president delivers a public announcement, inadvertently worsening the panic in Bundang. Roads are sealed off, isolating the city, while citizens are urged to return home and remain indoors, bracing for the unfolding catastrophe. Worried about her daughter's safety, Kim decides to stay in Bundang and soon finds Ji-gu in a supermarket, where she learns that Miru has gone missing. The two begin searching for her amidst growing public unrest, as desperate citizens scramble for essential supplies. The situation inside the supermarket quickly spirals out of control. Panic-driven looting erupts, and infected individuals collapse, coughing and vomiting blood, while riot police struggle to contain the chaos. Amidst the turmoil, Kim and Ji-gu finally spot Miru and rush toward the exit. As security attempts to lock down the building, the three narrowly escape just before the steel shutters slam shut. Kim manages to secure passage to Seoul for herself and Miru, but Ji-gu, unwilling to abandon his duty, refuses to leave. Meanwhile, Kim and Miru make it to the last evacuation helicopter bound for Seoul. However, just as they are about to board, Miru begins displaying symptoms of infection. Deemed a potential carrier, she is denied passage, leaving both her and Kim stranded, forced to confront the full devastation of the outbreak. At night, the Bundang quarantine zone is heavily reinforced by the Republic of Korea Army, Reserve Forces, the United States Air Force, and the Korean Disease Control Department. The president vows to protect his citizens at all costs as soldiers begin systematically searching homes, forcibly relocating residents to an isolation camp outside the Tanchon Sports Complex. Inside the control room, authorities finalize their strategy. Initially, they will identify potentially infected individuals through visual inspections, looking for erythematous rashes on their bodies. To confirm contamination, a PCR test will follow. After 48 hours, those who test negative will be released. To prevent the spread of rumors, officials order the shutdown of cell towers and cut off internet access. At the isolation camp, as residents undergo full-body inspections for any signs of infection, Kim notices that Miru has developed a scar on the back of her neck. Just as a thorough check is about to take place, Byung-ki panics and attempts to escape, triggering chaos. Seizing the opportunity, Kim discreetly helps Miru bypass the examination, ensuring she keeps her mask on to prevent spreading the infection. Once the body scans are completed, each resident is assigned an identification number and designated an isolation zone. After 10 hours in lockdown, frustration grows among the detainees as they protest the camp's poor living conditions. The guards respond with gun violence, forcing compliance. As tensions escalate, Gu-kwon, the operation officer in charge, intervenes and disperses the crowd. Later that night, Kyung-ub reveals that symptomatic individuals are being separated and sent to a special quarantine zone beneath the stadium, supposedly for medical treatment. However, in reality, they are executed to prevent further transmission. Ji-gu, growing suspicious, confides in Kim about Miru's worsening condition. Kim, in turn, confirms his fears. She knows the government has no cure and is eliminating the infected. On the second day, during a routine thermal scan of the infected, guards discover Monsai in the infected quarantine zone, surprisingly still alive. Kim is immediately informed about the lone survivor. Before leaving to investigate, she entrusts Miru to Ji-gu, assuring her daughter that they will remain in constant contact using a radio transmitter. 2 weeks after his infection, Monsai's vitals remain stable, giving authorities hope that his antibodies could be used to develop a vaccine. However, Kim's proposal to directly inject his antibodies into a patient without clinical trials is rejected, due to the potentially fatal consequences. Meanwhile, Miru's condition deteriorates rapidly, with scars spreading across her body, leaving her with little time. Desperate to save her daughter, Kim takes matters into her own hands and sneaks into the laboratory. Initially, Monsai refuses to participate, but upon hearing Miru's name and seeing her worsening state, he agrees to help. Clinging to the last hope of saving her daughter, Kim hurriedly begins the transfusion process. Unbeknownst to her, Gukwon, who is also infected, witnesses the procedure. Before Kim can complete the transfusion, officials and guards arrive, pounding on the door. Racing against time, she manages to finish the procedure just as they break in. Despite her efforts, Miru's condition is soon discovered, and she is forcibly sent to the infected quarantine zone. Jigu learns of Miru's fate, and immediately sets out to find her inside the infected quarantine zone. As he ventures deeper, he realizes the situation is far more horrifying than expected. The parking area is completely covered with lifeless bodies. The horror intensifies when he spots a patient still alive but tightly wrapped in plastic. Determined to press on, Jigu stumbles upon an even more nightmarish sight. Dozens of infected individuals, still wrapped in plastic, are being hoisted by a massive crane and dumped into a vast open field. Despite some still showing signs of life, they are all set ablaze in a merciless mass incineration. Racing against time, Jigu suddenly hears the faint ringing of a mobile phone. Following the sound, he frantically digs through a towering pile of corpses and finally finds Miru, unconscious but still breathing. Meanwhile, Kim searches desperately for her daughter throughout the facility. With every passing moment, hope slips away, and as she collapses in despair inside the parking lot, she fears the worst. Tension in the camp continues to rise due to the ongoing communications blackout, worsening living conditions, and rumors circulate that infected individuals are being executed, further fueling fear and unrest. Pressure from Leo Snyder of the WHO, and political figures, forces the president to break his earlier promise to release the uninfected after 48 hours. This betrayal sparks outrage, leading to violent clashes within the camp. As tensions boil over, an infected soldier is fatally shot by an officer, enraging the crowd. A furious mob storms the infected quarantine zone, breaking into the stadium grounds, where they witness a horrifying scene, Jigu rescuing Miru from a pile of bodies being burned alive. Realizing that authorities are incinerating the infected, the mob becomes even more furious and charges forward, unintentionally creating an opening for Jigu to escape with Miru. Jigu quickly contacts Kim, who is inside the stadium and now confronted by medical staff attempting to evacuate Monsai. Before she can act, the enraged mob storms the area, forcing everyone into a desperate retreat. Amidst the chaos, Monsai leaps off the medic van, reaching for a radio, but he is suddenly stabbed by Byung-ki, in a vengeful suicide attack to avenge his brother's death. Kim, now fleeing from the stadium's basement, manages to contact Jigu and learns that Miru has started showing signs of recovery. She instructs him to meet her at the Bundang intercity border. Meanwhile, Gukwon, an infected agitator who has been stirring unrest, leads an armed mob toward the highway. As they advance towards the intercity border, their anger turns violent, demanding immediate action from the government, setting the stage for a full-scale confrontation. With Monsai dead, the only hope for developing a vaccine, any chance of a medical breakthrough is lost. Under mounting pressure from Snyder and struggling to control the escalating chaos, the authorities make a ruthless decision. A strict shoot-on-sight order is issued to protect the rest of the country. As the enraged mob reaches the heavily guarded checkpoint, they come face to face with soldiers fully armed and prepared to eliminate any violators. Learning that Miru has antibodies, Gukwon shoots at Jigu but misses, accidentally killing a soldier instead. The soldiers retaliate without hesitation, unleashing a relentless wave of gunfire. Innocent civilians are caught in the crossfire, many falling victim to the merciless assault. Those who survive are forced to retreat, only to find themselves defenseless and trapped with nowhere to escape. The aftermath is nothing short of a war zone, bodies lie scattered, and the sheer scale of devastation makes it clear that countless lives could have been spared, had the authorities handled the crisis more responsibly. Amidst the chaos, Jigu shields Miru, who has now fully recovered, and ensures she is safely hidden. Securing her behind a barricade, he leaves her protected before rushing to aid wounded civilians caught in the violent confrontation. Meanwhile, the president receives a video call from Kim, who informs him of Miru's miraculous recovery. After the devastating loss of Monsai, this news reignites hope that a cure may still be possible. Elsewhere, Gukwon, desperate to save himself, captures Miru and attempts to transfuse her blood into his own body. However, before he can proceed, Kyung-up discovers him, and urgently warns him to stop. Gukwon refuses to back down and launches a brutal attack on Kyung-up. Just in time, Jigu arrives and intervenes. After a grueling struggle, he and Kyung-up manage to overpower Gukwon, who is ultimately killed in the battle. Miru flees the scene and wanders aimlessly, searching for her mother, with Jigu in pursuit. During this, she is pushed to the front of the mob, which confronts soldiers on the highway, trying to break through the intercity barrier. Kim, who has been desperately searching for her daughter, finally catches a glimpse of her. However, she finds herself trapped in a dangerous situation, as soldiers on the other side are ready to gun down anyone attempting to cross the containment line. Seeing her daughter alive, Kim rushes to stop Miru from crossing the line but is shot in the process. Miru, the brave little girl, shields her mother and pleads for the soldiers to stop shooting. All of this is closely monitored by the authorities from the control room. Fearing that the soldiers might shoot Miru, the mob rushes forward and forms a protective shield around her. In the control room, the medical chief informs the president that Miru carries the antibody and is their only hope for combating the flu. The president orders the soldiers to stand down, but is immediately confronted with another unexpected turn of events. Snyder has a backup plan to exterminate the infected with an airstrike. As the airstrike operation is set in motion, the president, exercising his authority over capital defense, orders the military base to shoot down any fighter jets that enter Bundang's airspace. Tensions escalate inside the control room, with an airstrike locked on its target, while the military base is poised to take down the incoming jets. Left with no other options, Snyder cancels the airstrike, ultimately saving hundreds of innocent lives. With the madness finally coming to an end, the people of Bundang can breathe again, reassured by a sense of justice and hope. Jigu and Kim develops a special bond, possibly growing closer, and Miru finds a fatherly figure in Jigu, someone she can trust not to abandon her. Miru is sent to Seoul to help develop a vaccine, while Jigu and Kim bid her farewell, hopeful for a brighter future ahead.